Okay, I'm going to try to make this kind of quick because this is going to be a long one. And this mod is from Geekvape, and it's the Aegis Legend. I'm going to get right to this. Starting with the packaging. Top of the box, we got some artwork. We're showing the Aegis Legend. We've got a little call out here showing that it uses a coil that's a mesh on the sides. Again, a little bit of artwork. Nothing top or bottom. And on the back, we've got just a few little things. The highlights, I guess, of the mod, as well as a scratch and sniff, the serial code, etc., 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 use UPC code, etc., etc., etc. Inside of the box, we have the mod itself. We have the tank that comes with the kit. We have a spare glass, and with the light as it is, that is almost completely transparent, can't see it. This one, the glass that's on there right now is a bubble glass. This one's a straight glass. We also have a little bag here with 4 screws. Those 4 screws are evidently for the screws on this fascia plate for whatever reason. And this is an additional seal for the USB and upgrade port. Here we have a USB cable. Here we have a whole bunch of spare parts for the atomizer itself, O-ring, seals, and of 810 to 510, is that right? Yeah, drip tip adapter. And we get an extra coil. The mod itself, we've got a leather insert all the way around here, stitched with a metal fascia on here, bolted in with 2 screws on each side. Beyond that, the rest of it is pretty much like a rubberized silicone, or maybe just silicone. Okay, sealing everything all the way around. On the front, we have the fascia with the screen, the up and down buttons, the adjustment buttons, the fire button. Here we have our 510 connector. It is plated. Very nicely done. Real good connectivity through that. Here we have that little plug that I said we got an extra for, and it's a booger to get undone. It really is. You gotta really pry at it. But underneath there is the USB charging and upgrade port. And again, this is a silicone cap to seal that. On the bottom, it says Aegis. We've got our battery door with some venting holes and a latching door. This is kind of hard to open. You got to really press down on that and push it back. You can see the plus and minus on here marked. It doesn't jump out at you, but it is marked. And this is all sealed all the way around here as well. Also on the inside, a little hard to see the way I got the lighting, but you got a number of little circles here, and those are little plugs that if the batteries have to vent, they'll actually blow out of the way and allow the batteries to vent, but in the meantime they keep the thing waterproof. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but looking down into the battery compartment, they are very well marked. Just with the light that I'm using, you can't see that, so like I say, unfortunate, but they are very well marked. Does have reverse battery protection. Obviously it will not turn on if you put the batteries in the wrong way. To close this, you do have to press down pretty firmly and slide that into place. This thing is dust proof, and it is water resistant up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. And that is pretty much the mod itself. Navigating the mod is pretty straightforward. It's 5 clicks off and 5 clicks on. On the front screen in the power mode, you have the power that you have set in here, 75 watts. You have the fact that it's watts with a little W. You have 2 battery bars showing you the status of the batteries. You have the coil resistance, the voltage that was last applied, the amperage, which automatically, or actually updates, not automatically, but in real time. There we go. Press the Addy for a second. Hope you could see that. You can see that the voltage and the amperage actually update real time. And then the puff counter on the bottom. Now, to change the settings, 3 clicks, and then you can use the plus and minus to roll through. You've got TC nickel, TC stainless steel, you've got TC titanium, you've got TC with just a TCR, set your manual TCR. You've got a VPC, variable power curve, that you can set. And you've got bypass, and then back to power. Now, in any of those settings, and that one just went back, it timed out and went back into power, so I'm going to hit it 3 times again. In any of those settings, you can move down. Here you've got the coil. I could lock the coil if I wanted to, not change the resistance, but actually lock it if you were using temperature control especially. And here in the bottom, I could reset the puff counter. Now it went back into standard mode. I'll hit it 3 times again. Okay, and I'll go into the stainless steel temperature control. Here again, I could lock and unlock the coil. I can set the wattage. You can set the available wattage that you want. And here I can reset the puff counter. In those modes, you cannot reset the TCR. You can reset the TCR if you're in just TCR mode. The bypass mode. Now let's start with the VPC mode. That's the one that comes up first. You go down individually. You can change each one. You get all done. All of these, when you get completed with it, you can just press and hold. Actually, this one wants to go all the way through, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, I did it. It press and hold, and you go back to the main screen. So I just clicked it 3 times. 3 times. And the next one is bypass. Now, bypass puts out 4 volts. So it's kind of like a powerful single battery mech mod. Most mech mods, obviously, the battery under load doesn't put out 4 volts, puts out less than that, but this one actually puts out a full 4 volts, and I'll show you that in a little bit here. But it does not give the 8 volts that you might anticipate from a serial battery mod. It is a 4 volt bypass mode. And that's about it. We're back to power. Now, some of the other things here, let me long hold it, and okay, there we're back. Okay, some of the other things that you can do with this, you can press a plus and minus at the same time, and that'll lock it. So you can't update it. You can still fire it, but you can't change any of the settings. Press and hold that, get rid of the lock. Now I can press and hold either plus or minus and the power button at the same time, and I can adjust the brightness. And then if I hold all 3 at the same time, plus, minus, and power button, it'll go into stealth mode. And it'll fire and just won't light up. So I'm going to get out of that. Okay, and back to the main menu. And that's about it for navigating it. Pretty straightforward, not difficult to navigate, not a whole lot of extra little options in there, just what you need. It does a fine job with that. Okay, dimensions of the mod. You're going to have to trust me that I'm putting the mod on here because it's the only way I can actually show you the weight with this camera set up. So there is the mod on with the batteries in place. It is a pretty hefty mod. 293 grams. Pretty hefty little mod. As far as the physical size, we're looking at 9 centimeters by about 6 centimeters by about 2.5 centimeters. The kit comes with the Aero tank. It's a shorty. It comes with 2 glasses I showed you before. There's this bubble tank and there's also a flat one. On the bottom we've got the Aero and it says it's the mesh version designed by Geekvape. Got the A10 drip tip, and of course I also mentioned that there was an adapter if you want to use a 510. And the top is a 1/4 turn twist off, and you can see you've got really nice sized filling holes on the sides here. Taking off, well, I guess looking at the airflow, you've got airflow one on each side and they obviously adjust together. Taking off the base, which unscrews. You can see here you can pull your tank right off of there, the glass right off of there, and replace that. The coil I've got in there at the moment is a 4 single coil atomizer. And it says right on the side that it is Ni-80. That's really nice. And it also states here vaped between 60 and 80 watts. And it's a 1.5 ohm. The one that I've been using has been the mesh. And that is 30 to 90, best 60 to 80. And it is a 0.2 K1, and it says on the top mesh. Obviously, to change the coil, you just turn right out of there and you can see the base. Since I haven't used this one, I'm going to fire it up now. Starting with priming it. Few drops until you see the color start changing on the cotton underneath there. And then we'll put her back together. It's good to get that pretty tight so that it doesn't spin apart when you go to take off the top. Fill top, and I'm just going to put some e-juice in here just for something to vape. Take the top, it'll snap down into position, and a 1/4 turn, and that's it. Ready to go. Okay, one test that I just had to do is to see that, just to verify that the thing actually would function as it says it was designed. Obviously, it said that it would be good to 1 meter for a half hour. I don't have a meter of water to play with, so I put it in the sink for about 15 minutes, and it did just fine. Pulled it out of there. It functioned just fine afterwards. If you look inside the battery door, there are a couple drops of water in there, but they came in after I opened the battery door. They were not let in while the thing was underwater. Obviously, I dried the thing off before I continued to use it. I don't think this is intended to go to swimming with, anything like that necessarily, but it did work just fine, so kudos there. Starting with a technical rundown on the thing, first test was at 0.18 ohms with the mod set to 200 watts, and the mod achieved 167 watts, a little less than the 200 watts that it claims to be able to achieve, but not bad. Rise time of 40 milliseconds, real nice flat DC signal, all the way around looking pretty doggone good. The second one was with a 0.27 ohm coil, 200 watts, and it achieved a little bit more here, 176 watts. That's different. At any rate, 50 millisecond rise time, and again, a nice flat DC signal. The third one at 0.53 ohms, mod set to 200 watts. It achieved 124 watts. So it's putting out some pretty good power here for some relatively high resistances. This was kind of surprising. I'm pretty impressed with this. Rise time of 40 milliseconds. Okay, the next one is with the mod at 1.03 ohms, mod set to 200 watts. This is very interesting to me. I note that the mod put out 11.72 volts. According to the specifications, I believe it's only supposed to put out 9 volts. But right there is, there's the proof. 11.72 watts, or excuse me, volts, and 133 watts. That's a lot of power for an ohm. So if you folks want to build yourself some really hefty, beefy coils and hit them hard with a lot of power, this mod's going to do it. And a rise time of 40 milliseconds, which is really respectable as hell. Here we have our variable power curve, and you can see the different wattage settings, the 40 down to 30 down to 25. It did a pretty nice job of going back and forth between them all. Now, what's a little bit different than a lot of mods with this, a lot of mods will hold a particular wattage and then jump to the next, where this one just kind of moved from one wattage to the other, kind of a smooth line all the way through. So that's a little bit different, but it definitely works. Here we have the bypass. In bypass, I used a 0.53 ohm resistance, and the mod provided a full 4 volts. Again, this is more than what a mech is going to provide with a single battery, because a mech with a single battery is going to, the battery is going to give you its voltage under load, where this is putting out the full 4 volts. So, at any rate, in this case, it achieved 30 watts, and the rise time was just fast. I mean, it was just basically instant. The last one here is looking at our temperature control. This is kind of different here again too. If you notice in the very beginning, the rise time is pretty darn quick, and then there's a spike, and then it just drops way down and starts coming back up slowly, and achieves basically a temperature, and it's an even temperature. Now, that temperature was pretty much under temp. 380 degrees Fahrenheit is what I got with the mod set for 455 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's it's a bit of an underperformer in regard to temperature control. I did play around with it a little bit and put it in TC mode. Pushed up the TCR to about 110, and I got what I consider to be a real decent temperature control vape out of it. So it isn't the best, it isn't the worst. I'd say, it's right in the middle of the pack as far as how it performs in regard to temperature control. The resistance, how it reads resistances, all of them dead on except for the smallest resistance. At 0.18 ohms, the mod read it at 0.15. Everything else dead on with resistance. And then, of course, I just charted what we saw on the printouts from the oscilloscope, and you can see that's a bit of an odd curve. It at 0.18 ohms, 167. Then it goes up to 176 at 0.27 ohms. Then it goes down to 124 watts at 0.53 ohms, and back up to 133 watts at 1.3. So yeah, that's just different. Okay, so there you have it. There's the Aegis Legend. And what are my thoughts about this? I think it's a working mod. I think this is a fantastic little mod. It'll withstand water. It'll withstand dust. It's, as I understand it, it's supposed to withstand a 3-foot or a meter drop. I didn't drop it. I don't like dropping mods. Any rate, I have banged it around outside. Use it for yard work. Not been gentle with it, and there's not a mark on it. There's not a problem with it. It's got a little bit of heft to it. It's a fairly good size mod. The tank itself, pretty darn good flavor for commercially made coils, especially that mesh coil. I really enjoyed using this, and I used that mesh coil for over a week, and it did not gunk up at all. So that's impressive. The fire button has a little bit of a push to it. But it snaps into place real nice, so you don't get this business where you press it and it bounces back on you or anything like that. It is just very comfortable, at least in my hand. Of course, I have pretty good sized hands. So let me get a vape here. Yeah, I am really impressed with it. It's one hardy little mod. It's something that I'm surely not afraid to take along with me or take out, working in the yard or whatever. And it provides a really good vape. In wattage mode, it's excellent. In like I said, in temperature control mode, as long as I change the TCR up a little bit, or you could change up the temperature itself a little bit, you can get a pretty doggone decent temperature control experience from this. It's really not too bad at all. I didn't play with it a whole lot in variable power mode or in bypass, but it's obvious using the oscilloscope that it works just fine. So at any rate, that's really about all there is to it. As far as the batteries, the battery life, it seems to be, I think it's relatively good. I get at least 300 puffs, 2.5 to 3 second puffs out of a set of batteries, which is what I would anticipate from a 2-battery mod. So yeah, this is a definite contender. Not the fanciest thing you've ever seen. It's pretty basic in its design. Not a whole lot of fancy things on the side of it or whatever. But yeah, it's a darn sweet little mod. So, anyway, with that, appreciate you watching, and maybe see you again.